While on a field expedition, an archaeologist suddenly discovered a motionless human figure in a cave. No matter how loudly he shouted, there was no response from the stranger. David, sensing something unusual, quickly drove home. After saying goodbye to his students and gathering his equipment, he returned to the wilderness. He secured a rope around a rock, and once confident it was stable, headed toward the cave with his dog. As they approached, the dog seemed to sense danger and refused to enter despite David's calls. Left with no choice, after confirming the man inside hadn't moved an inch, the professor cautiously entered the cave alone to investigate. Strangely, after walking just a few steps, he noticed the air beginning to ripple in front of him, as if an invisible wall separated the cave from the outside world. Intrigued by this extraordinary phenomenon, the professor gathered his courage and continued deeper into the cave. Oddly, as David got closer to the cowboy-dressed stranger, the man began to move slowly. Once David had completely passed through the air barrier, the cowboy suddenly resumed normal movement. David wanted to ask what was happening, but realizing he knew nothing about the stranger's identity, he abandoned the idea and could only watch as the man disappeared around a corner. Even more disturbing, since David entered the cave, the light outside had begun to flicker frequently, and terrifying sounds echoed from the depths. Frightened, David remained still. Realizing the danger, he frantically ran toward the exit. The outside world had become more unsettling than the cave interior. Though he'd only been inside for minutes, daylight had somehow transformed into night. The dog that had been guarding the entrance was nowhere to be found. Fortunately, his car remained where he'd parked it, but upon approaching, David discovered it was covered in branches and wouldn't start. Only when he noticed his work ID had yellowed did he understand the gravity of the situation. He got out to look around and quickly found an unfamiliar Jeep. While searching the vehicle, he unexpectedly discovered a backpack belonging to Jason, his student, the same student he had forbidden from following him before leaving. Suspecting his students had secretly entered the cave, he returned to the entrance. To avoid getting lost, he dropped a glow stick every few steps. As he was about to pass through the air barrier, the glow stick he tossed remained suspended in midair. As David slowly approached, the stick instantly resumed falling at normal speed. What David didn't know was that shortly after he'd left initially, Jason had followed with his friends, but they had entered through a different cave opening. When they entered, spiders crawling on the walls frightened one of the boys, who refused to continue despite everyone's persuasion. After discussion, they decided to let the boys stay outside to watch their vehicles. Soon, the group reached a cliff edge. The only way down was by rope, but as Lucy was descending last, the rope suddenly broke. She injured her ankle in the fall, and Jason hurt his wrist trying to catch her. Worse still, the other rope was also cut, something only the boy outside could have done. Despite their desperate calls, there was no response. Jason decided to search for an exit inside the cave while leaving the injured Lucy behind. Following the tunnel deeper, they eventually found an exit, but nearby they discovered the boy's corpse. As everyone reacted in horror, Jason found the boy's recording device, hoping the footage might provide answers. This captivating film is called Time Trap and is definitely worth watching.